Well, guess who's back into the sarcastic recaps arena? Yep, it's me, your snarky narrator. And brace yourselves, because today we're plunging headlong into the cinematic wonder known as Kong, Skull Island. We kick things off in the ancient year of 1944, smack dab in the middle of World War II. You've got two fighter pilots, Hank Marlowe from the good old USA and Gunpei Ikari from Japan, who drop onto a Pacific island via parachutes. Oh, what's the first thing they do? Of course, shoot each other. Bullets run out, and just like that, it's a good old-fashioned foot race. And guess what? Surprise guest of the day, a gigantic ape shows up. Because you know nothing says hello like a giant monkey crashing the party. Zooming ahead to 1973, we meet Bill Randa, the bigwig at Monarch, and his sidekick geologist Houston Brooks. They crash Senator Willis's office party to pitch their genius plan. Explore Skull Island for prehistoric thrills. Willis is about as interested as a snail at a racetrack, but Bill drops the bomb that those 54 nuclear tests were basically failed monster hunts. Willis, feeling cornered, caves and says, "Fine, do it, but if it goes south, I'm not taking the blame." And off our dynamic duo goes, ready to unleash chaos in the name of science. Bill's next mission, round up an army squad under the watchful eye of Lieutenant Colonel Preston Packard. Then Bill and Houston jet off to Saigon on a recruitment spree. They got their eyes set on James Conrad, an ex-British Special Air Service captain. They meet him in a dimly lit bar, spill the beans on their Skull Island venture, and dangle a tempting paycheck. But hold your horses, James has a knack for money matters. He fires back demanding extra zeros because, traipsing through rain, dodging heat, and wrestling with mud while fending off giant monkeys and perhaps the occasional fly swarm deserves some hefty compensation. Agreement reached as James is the go-to guy. Bill also brings in Mason Weaver, the anti-war photographer with a knack for danger. The ship sets sail for Skull Island, and as they journey, NASA's Victor Naves chimes in. He spills the beans about the island's perpetual storm and natural barrier keeping it hidden. But fear not, for they aim to conquer it, using Preston's fleet of helicopters. And as if our cast of characters wasn't already as thick as a jungle, Victor to introduce Bill, Houston, and their scientist buddy San Lin to the mix. But wait, there's more. Our military maestro Jack Chapman pops in with a friendly warning about the island's persistent storm playing havoc with communication. He kindly suggests a rendezvous point at the island's tip to regroup within 3 days, everyone. Can't wait to see who gets lost in the woods first. As our intrepid crew gets closer to the island, they're greeted by a spectacular storm with clouds as dark as your worst Monday morning. But hey, who needs to be deterred by some extreme weather? They bravely jump aboard the helicopters and ride the turbulence like roller coaster enthusiasts. It's a bumpy ride, but guess what? They emerge from the storm like champions, landing on an island that's as stunning as a celebrity's Instagram feed. Shortly after, the soldiers get all scientific by dropping seismic explosives, because who needs peace and quiet, right? Oh, but hold your applause, because as luck would have it, they're rudely interrupted by none other than Kong, the oversized superstar of this jungle jam. The soldiers bravely introduce themselves with bullets only to realize Kong's got some killer dance moves. Bullets bounce often like insults off a politician's ego. And just for kicks, Kong plays helicopter bowling, knocking them down like a row of soda cans. The survivors go flying like confetti at a rock concert, ending up scattered all over the island. Post-chaos, the survivors split into groups. James, Mason, Victor, Houston, and the enigmatic Slitico form the Survivor Squad. On the flip side, Preston, Bill, and the soldiers are all about Crazy Colonel's plan, because who needs logic when you can follow orders? Preston's having a rough one. Fueled by both temper and the mistaken belief that his haircut grants authority, he whips out his gun and goes all in on Bill, demanding the whole truth about their adventure. Bill spills it quicker than a clumsy waiter dropping a tray, revealing his grudge against oceanic monsters. Seems one of those mythical nasties ruined his family vacation at sea back in the day, and he's the lone survivor to tell the tale. And get this, the government served up the classic mechanical failure excuse. Since then, he's been on a crusade to prove he's not just a lousy sailor, but that sea monsters are the real deal. After this revelation, Preston's crew marches towards Jack's supposed location. In a classic case of wrong place, wrong time, one soldier gets pierced by a bamboo tree. Nature's own toothpick. Suddenly, a colossal spider thing shows up, hungry for a snack. The soldier decides limbless is the new black and drops his extremities, while the others blast the monster to headless oblivion. Just your typical walk in the woods. Meanwhile, James takes the lead with his crew, aiming for the rendezvous point. Attempting to play the radio game, they get a big ol' 0. Strolling by a lake, they meet their friendly neighborhood buffalo monster. Panic mode on, right? Not for James. With a mix of Dr. Dolittle and animal psychology, he's like, chill, folks, it's just curious. Turns out, His sixth sense is right. The buffalo beast gives him the cold shoulder and leaves. Crisis averted. As the gang keeps on trekking, they stumble upon a sticky situation. The Yahoo locals, armed and ready for a throwdown. Just as things start to get dicey, guess who pops in? Good old Hank, still kicking it. He pulls off the ultimate peacekeeping move, convincing everyone that turning their weapons into conversation starters is way cooler. Crisis averted. The locals extend a friendly invite to their pad, where Hank spills the beans about his 28-year island vacay, and has learned a lot about the natives. According to him, Kong's like their A-list bodyguard, taking on predators left and right, including these ugly underground reptilian dudes called skull crawlers. But here's the kicker. These creepy crawlies off Hank's buddy, Gunpei, and even wiped out his family. Talk about a real estate feud. Hank's convinced that if Kong takes a permanent vacation, it'll be open season for the skull crawlers, turning the island into their turf. After hearing this, James decides to change the topic from monsters to football, proving that even in the face of giant gorillas, sports talk is a universal icebreaker. After this mini sports therapy session, James drops a bombshell. A rescue team is supposedly set to touch down on the northern end of the island in a blink and you'll miss it 3 days. Hank's convinced that sprinting to the northern part of the island in 3 days is as plausible as finding a unicorn at a coffee shop. But fear not, Hank introduces his Build a Boat project, a half-done masterpiece made with his late buddy Gunpei. It's like a puzzle missing most of its pieces. While Hank's toolkit takes center stage, Mason, our explorer with a camera, takes a timeout from her gig to chat with the natives. Afterward, Mason turns into our jungle detective, following a mysterious sound. Discovers a plane-sized surprise on the other side of a wall, a buffalo stuck under debris. She channels her inner superhero, attempting a solo rescue mission that quickly turns into a help, I need somebody scenario. Enter Kong, stage left. With the grace of a giant ape, he swoops in and with a flick of his wrist, liberates the buffalo. Mason's eyes meet Kong's in a cinematic moment that might be his way of saying, thanks for the effort, even if it was kind of pointless. Elsewhere, Jack tries to talk to the colonel but fails, so he takes a quick break on a big tree trunk that turns out to be a creature. Hoops. Naturally, Jack starts shooting and scares it away. But then the skull crawler shows up and finishes Jack off. As darkness falls, James' group is working hard on the boat. Mason wants to capture the beauty of the northern lights, but her flashlight is broken. Thankfully, James comes to the rescue by offering her a light, one that he's been carrying in his bottom for 10 years. Romantic, right? Hank and his team are finally ready to set sail on their patched-up boat. Before they depart from the island, Hank digs up a sword from a grave and bids farewell to the natives. As they sail down the river, Hank shares his dream of reuniting with his family, with a group of strangers he just met. What could possibly go wrong? After what feels like ages, they finally catch a glimpse of hope. The radio signal returns and Preston's voice is heard. Eager to be rescued, they urgently ask the colonel to shoot a flared gun, hoping to pinpoint their location. With eyes fixed on the heavens, they excitedly steer the boat towards the radiant flare like moths to a flame. Their happiness is short-lived as Victor is suddenly taken away and torn apart by carnivorous birds. Heartbroken but determined, the group decides to continue towards the remaining team members. With the team reunited, they make landfall and dive into the woods. James, in a stroke of brilliance, suggests they boat on over to the north side. But Colonel Stubber is having none of it. He's all about that west side adventure. Hank's like, hello, that's where the skull crawlers throw their wild parties. But the colonel counters with the big guns. No, the west side is where Tupac hangs out. Because naturally, Tupac is the go-to guy for monster intel. James begrudgingly agrees, but he's got one condition: curfew. They've got to be back before nightfall or things might get real spooky. In the next scene, Hank leads the group into a forbidden battleground against his better judgment. Preston insists on going, and they end up taking cover behind giant bones when attacked by a skull crawler. The crawler then barfs up a skull with Jack's tag on it. Talk about bizarre souvenirs. As silence descends, the group moves forward, thinking the creatures done. They were wrong. The beast returns with an appetite for chaos, and poor Bill ends up as its main course. In a frenzy, the group unleashes a storm of bullets, but this creature's hide is tougher than a rhino's in a steel suit. Desperate times call for flamethrowers, machine guns, and a surprise guest appearance by a flock of carnivorous birds. It's a party, and nobody's having a good time. In the middle of this crazy carnival, Slickbo takes a skull crawler slap, triggering his own toxic gas fireworks. Hank passes the sword of destiny to James, who goes all action hero to save Slivko, swatting birds on his way like a mosquito ninja. But surprise, the skull crawler crashes the party. Just when you think it's game over, Mason tosses James a lighter into the creature's mouth. Boom. Dinner's canceled. After the chaos, Preston's still clinging to his Kong-killing crusade. James, with a heavy heart, waves Jack's tag like a white flag, signaling Jack's unfortunate demise. But oh no, the Colonel's as stubborn as a mule at a chess tournament. He's dead set on getting to that crash site, grabbing ammo, and avenging the fallen. Hank, Houston, and Mason try to drop some knowledge bombs about the cataclysmic consequences of killing Kong, but Preston's ears are locked in Kong must die mode. James, stuck in a tight spot with Preston's Kong vendetta, finally spills the beans about the crash site's location. Preston's crew heads there while the rest bail back to the boat. In the darkness, Preston gets all crafty with explosives, hoping to pull off a Kong caper. Meanwhile, James and Mason take a detour to a cliff, trying to figure out which way leads to the Northern River. Lo and behold, Kong makes an appearance, but surprisingly, he's not in a smashing mood. Mason, feeling brave, steps up to Kong, trying to friend-zone him with a gentle touch. Suddenly, Kong senses the explosion from Preston's shenanigans and starts heading toward the chaos. James, Mason, and Hank, realizing they're enormous buddies in a pickle, decide it's rescue time. Just as Kong reaches Preston's party, the Colonel goes all out, setting the whole place ablaze in an attempt to grill the big guy. The colossal gorilla gives it his all, taking down a bunch of soldiers before keeling over. Preston, the mastermind of chaos, tells his remaining minions to get ready to blow Kong to Kingdom Come. But just in the nick of time, James, Mason, and Hank swoop in, guns blazing, to put the soldiers in their place. They lay down the law, explaining that Kong is the only thing keeping the skull crawlers from throwing a monster party. After some tense back and forth, the soldiers see the light and turn on their stubborn colonel. But Preston's not one to give up easily. The supersized skull crawler pops up from the ground, making everyone run away scared. Preston, the brave guy, stays behind to blow things up. But Kong, who was resting, wakes up and squashes Preston flat. Now the big ape is all beat up and has to fight the huge skull crawler. As the gang rushes toward the shore, James tells Mason to shoot a flare into the sky to help Houston and the others find them. But just when they thought they were safe, the skull crawler pops up again, catching them off guard. Cole, in a heroic move, decides to take one for the team and tries to blow up the monster with grenades. But the skull crawler isn't impressed and flicks him away with its tail. Ouch, tough luck, Cole. Just as the skull crawler is ready to pounce on the gang, Kong makes a grand entrance, setting the stage for a colossal showdown between these titans. Kong gives it his all, but the skull crawler manages to toss him aside, leaving Kong hanging by some chains. It looks like curtains for our furry friend, but Houston and the gang ride in on their boat and start blasting the skull crawler. Mason, ever the hero, shoots a flare at the beast, diverting its attention just long enough for Kong to break free. Kong tosses the skull crawler into a cliff, sending Mason tumbling into the water. But fear not, Kong's there to rescue her. Yet the skull crawler seizes its chance and wraps its tongue around Kong's arm. With a display of incredible strength, Kong guts the creature, putting an end to its reign of terror. With the skull crawler defeated, Kong gently sets Mason beside James before making his exit. After these intense events, our survivors finally make it to the rendezvous point, leaving Kong behind, watching them stoically. The movie wraps up on an emotional note as Hank reunites with his family after decades apart. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a like to support the channel. Thanks for being a part of this.